Hello and welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker, and Walker Tea Review has a library of teas to choose from. If you're wondering what teas, how do I expand and really get into teas, or if you're just wondering, there's a very interesting but a little pricey tea out there. I'm not sure if it's for me. I'm not sure if it's worth it. Well, check the library out. You may find that it is along the path that you want to go, and helps you make that decision. We're going to be looking at a tea today, a green tea. Perhaps you'll be adding it to your collection as well. So let's go ahead and get the tea started. We've got our basic equipment, very simple equipment. The Chinese gaiwan, some would say, requires a little bit of an art, a little bit of technique to it, but it's fairly easy to catch on, and it gives us a very simple, repeatable base for comparing one tea against another, always using very same or similar procedures. Part of that procedure, of course, is our water that we've got here that's been brought to a boil and has been allowed to cool for the 30-40 seconds that I've been talking here. Now you see I've got just a basic regular oak teaspoon. I'm going to take a big spoon out because I want to cover the bottom of the bottom surface of this little bowl. This is about a 4-ounce gaiwan here. Gaiwan meaning a Chinese term for really lidded bowl. So we put that in, set that aside for just a moment. I'm going to add my water slowly. I'm going to circle it around so that it allows the water to the leaves to swirl around and get really coated and covered by the water. And I'm going to add enough water so that when I put my lid on, there's a little bit of water sitting just above the lid. Let me check that to make sure that works, and that does. It's going to be a little hot on the rim, so we do want to keep an eye on that. We want to also be able to raise that lid up before we start to pour. If you don't, you've got a lot of water sitting up there on the rim. But to really introduce this tea, if you're going to be considering adding this to your collection, if you're tasting along with me and you want to make some notes, this would be a good time to kind of catch up and get prepared. We're going to talk about the dry leaf, the wet leaf, and the liquor. This is Mark T. Wendell's MaoFengTranquility. It is a green tea traditionally from Yellow Mountain. Huangshan is the Chinese name. Maofeng meaning something like hair point, hairy peak. Mao or fuzzy. Mao can also mean fuzzy or fur. So that's what it is. It's a traditional and very well recognized green tea in China. Okay, this particular, I should make a note here, a quarter pound, that is 4 ounces, which is approximately 113 grams, is currently available for $9.25. Okay, there are some discounts, so be on the lookout on my future episodes page, of course. Also look at Wendell's website, go back on occasion, because you will find some offers there. All right, but let's get into this tea. Let's talk about the dry leaf, as I said, the wet, and the liquor. First off, nice, sweet, rich aromas coming off the dry leaf. I mean, you're getting a sweetness that is something like spinach. Notes on the website use the word chestnut. I could get something kind of sweet, nutty about this. Not so much of a peanut or a cashew, but yes, some kind of a nut with a light sweetness to it. Okay. Looking at these leaves, Maofengs will often be individual leaf, wrapped or twisted along the length of the vein. You're seeing some of that here. You're seeing dark green, grayish green kind of color here. Here's a piece, for example, that is about 1 inch in length. You can tell it is one solid leaf. I'm not seeing a lot of bud or leaf pairs, I should say, leaf bud sets or pairs here. A little bit of twig here and there. What else do we have? I'm getting some, of course, that 1 inch piece that I pulled out was about in the middle range. I mean, you do get some smaller. I would say there's a larger percentage of smaller pieces than pieces larger than 1 inch. Okay. Well, no, I take that back. I would say about an average is 1 inch, for a little bit above average. More than half seems to be larger pieces here, or pieces of at least 3/4 in length, if not more. Okay, so that takes care of our dry leaf. Not the brightest color, but still a deep, rich color. I will say that for it. Okay, let's go ahead and look at our wet leaf, and to do that, we're going to have to pour. So again, this is where a little bit of skill, a little bit of practice comes in. It's a worthwhile skill to develop. You want to be able to kind of, one thing you may need to do, in this case I don't because the leaves have settled to the bottom. If leaves are floating on the top, you can push them aside a little bit with your lid. You want to keep a nice wide opening there, leaning your lid over to the side. Middle finger and thumb holding the rim lightly because it is still hot. Index finger pressing down to hold the lid. And we pour quickly. A little bit of leaf slips through, that's fine. In those last few drops, that's where a lot of the strongest portion of tea liquor is. At the bottom there. So we'll set that aside for just a moment. Let me get this guy one out. You do want to be careful because there's a lot of steam, a lot of heat built up in there. You want to get a sniff, but you don't want to scald the inside of your nose either. You are getting, this one I would say is more so of that lightly roasted chestnut smell. Or even because of the sweetness in there, I get the impression if you've ever had sugary, like glazed roasted chestnuts, those are nice. So there is that sweetness. There is a little bit of that chestnut note. Also a little bit of cooked, kind of boiled green bean. That's present as well. So this just, on the nose, I get the impression this is going to be sweet. It's going to have a little bit of creaminess to it. It's going to have some kind of brothy element to it. But we'll go ahead. We'll have to wait and see if that holds true. The leaves themselves, you are getting, as we said, not a lot of complete leaves, but you are getting good sized portion here. There's a section of leaf here, pretty wide. Other than that, okay, I did find here, I'm going to pull this out, this is a little bit of a needle or tip there, so that's worth noting, that's a positive. Another tip, let's see, some kind of stem looking pieces here, so add that, just one. And then leaf portions. Let me pull out a small leaf portion here. Okay, let me put those others back because that's a good character representation of the variety you have here. You've got some large leaf sections, larger than say what looks like an early spring, first leaf type of flush there. You have leaf sections. You get some needle-looking components there, and some stem or the very tender branch where that first leaf, or that sprout, that needle at the end of the branch, and that first leaf that has folded out of that very tender part there. So I've seen stronger performances from some others, but let's hold off any further judgment until we're really giving this a taste. Now our liquor here is a bright, a very pretty deep, rich gold color. I see this, inconsistently with other Maofengs, and this one's got a richer, deeper, richer color. A lot of people, if you're wanting a very early harvest, they're going for a very light, pale-looking color. This one looks like it was from a later harvest. That would be my, and that the leaves kind of tip you off to that as well. Okay. Not very strong aromas coming off yet. Perhaps as it cools, I'm getting a little bit of that cooked boiled green bean, but and a little bit of a roasted chestnut, a toasted, deeper toasted chestnut without the sweetness there. So we'll see how that pans out in the taste here. If you ever if you're drinking tea in the company of traditional Asian, Taiwanese, Chinese, a lot of people will keep an eye on your manners. You often want to turn your palm away from people and toward yourself. It's more polite. It's considered impolite to show your palm to others. Yes, that toasted note is still there. Again, more of the deeper roasted chestnut. The sweetness, the tenderness that came out in the dry leaf aroma, rather, and a little bit here in the wet leaf as well, is not standing out as much in the liquor. Now, I intentionally gave this one a pretty thorough, heavy steeping because that draws out the strengths and weaknesses. Heavy steeping depending on the tea, if it's depending on the tea quality, heavy steeping will draw out more astringency. Depending, like I said, if it's a higher quality, if it's a higher quality, you often, even with a higher temperature, you draw out less astringency. This one has moderate astringency, moderate to, yeah, I would go so far, upper moderate, higher moderate, yeah. As far as the aftertaste goes, you do get a little bit of that kind of sweetness. Just eating a raw, slightly sweet vegetable. You know, at first it had a little bit of a light bitterness to it, but this is the vegetable I'm talking about. But as the back, maybe like the skin of the cucumber is a little bit bitter, but as it hit towards the back, sweetness of the cucumber really came out, and that's what you're getting here as well. A little bit more sweetness in the background. Brothiness. A little bit of brothiness. The astringency kind of overpowers any brothy feel. If there's any texture or feel, it really gets kind of sucked away by that drying action in your mouth. So, all right, looking at this tea as a whole, you've got smaller leaf portions, not necessarily whole leaf portions in your dry leaf, but some nice sweet aromas. You've got in your wet leaf, you've got some leaf sections here, some sweetness again, and some brothy, creamy type notes, sensations that are passed into the nose. The liquor, deeper, richer, darker color, a little bit more of the astringency than some others, a sweetness that came out later in the back, a brothiness that kind of got overpowered by the astringent component of this tea. So I'm going to give this tea an 86. It's got some of the components, like I said, that we were looking for. What I was looking a little bit more for a sweeter element there that was more balanced or tamed with the astringent component. A little bit further, more nuanced in the flavors and aromas as well. So come back to Walker Tea Review. We're making great tea decisions together, I hope, and look forward to making more in the future.